Good. So it's noon. We might not have everyone yet, but I think we're going to start. Even more so, that is the address of the new president of the US. So maybe we don't have a ton of US customer logging in this time, but we have something exciting to share with you. So you should see my screen at this point. Today, it's the customer showcase. So we're very happy to have Tim from APR show us what is how he's using Client. But before we start with that, we're also going to be joined, as usual, by Dominic Brunel from Drakia. So hi, Dominic. Hi, Tim.
Greetings.
Hello.
And the agenda for our customer showcase today is going to be, we're going to start with APR. So Tim's going to show us how they're using Client at APR to do project resourcing. So it's something different that we saw in the previous demos or previous webinar. So it's pretty exciting to see, and I find a lot of useful way that you guys, our customer, can use that the way that Client, the way that APR is doing it. Drakia, after that, with Dominic, is going to show us a simple way that you can also do planning directly from the timesheet. So for future planning. So each team member can do some planning in the timesheet. And on my side, from Client, I'm going to present you our new project board. So the new release that we're having tomorrow, there's a project board within, and I want to show you how we can maybe do differently a project management for a different kind of project with the project board. So this is the agenda for today. So we're doing the customer showcase. Next week is going to be about execution. So we're going to look more about timesheet, time entries, approval of those. And again, we're going to show you a different way maybe that you can run your project. Also, we're going to present you that new mobile timesheet that we will be releasing tomorrow. So next week, we're going to also be presenting this through our client keynote. And for anyone that would like to be showcased in our next one on the execution side, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm still looking for people to present or customer to present for the February 3rd the execution customer showcase. Good. So at this point, Tim, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to let you do your thing. Again, thank you very much. I know you spend quite an amount of time to prep, but yeah, I'm looking forward to what you have to show. So you can go ahead and share your screen.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Yannick. And hopefully that is the right screen to share. You see the front of my presentation. Okay, so just to introduce myself, I guess I'm one of the partners at APR. One of my responsibilities is around strategic platforms. So I oversaw our implementation of Client last year, and yeah, generally have ownership of our relationship with Client and Salesforce and various other platforms. So just a little bit about APR to start with. So we're a consulting business, providing services to the financial and insurance sector, mainly in the UK. We also have clients in Ireland and mainland Europe. And our business is very much built around the idea of identifying and attracting high quality, technically minded people and developing them and using them to deliver our services to clients. So very much a people business, and yeah, it's pretty niche what we do. And those solutions, yeah, take two main forms, I'd say. So what we call resourcing and consulting. So resourcing being providing additional resource or capacity to our clients' teams to work within their teams, and then consulting projects where we actually provide deliverables-based solutions to clients. And although the consulting bit of our business has grown quite significantly over the last couple of years, probably still the majority of what we do is around the resourcing side, and that's very much what I'm going to be focusing on today and what I show you. We are slightly unusual in, certainly within our sector in the UK, but I think probably more generally in terms of how we're set up, that we use two resource pools essentially. So we've got a very large pool of self-employed actuarial contractors on our books. There's large numbers of those in the UK, and we call on them to essentially subcontract out to client projects. But what makes us unusual is that we also have our employed staff team. So mainly people that we take on at graduate or school leaver level. We train them up through the actuarial exams, give them the skills that they need to provide for our clients. And that model is the foundation of our success, essentially. So before we go into the system itself, just give you a quick sort of walkthrough of what an opportunity or what a project looks like from our perspective. And the key point, I think, before I go to that, I'm going to talk a bit about our setup of client. Apologies for that. So just quickly, we implemented last year. We've been using Salesforce for 15 years or so. Got 100 plus users, just over 100 of which 70 or so are our staff. So pretty much all of our staff go into the platform every day. And the rest are contractors accessing via the Salesforce community portal. So at any one time, there's probably 30 to 40 contractors accessing the system, but out of a total pool of 500 or so, as I say, on our books. In terms of sort of projects, at any one time, there's probably 80 to 100 or so projects on the go, but these projects can tend to be quite long in duration. Typically, they be 3 to 6 months for an initial engagement, but quite often they get extended and extended. So sometimes we have projects lasting many years. And in total, that amounts to probably about 150 or so projects each year that we oversee. And just in terms of setup, we have various locations and geographies. We've just opened an office in Dublin, so we've got a European entity now, and multi-currency. But as far as the setup goes, we just have a single organization, a single practice. More or less everything that we do is built on a time and materials basis, and most of our resourcing projects are built on a daily rate basis. So as you're probably aware, the unit of time as far as the client is concerned is the hour. So we've got a process that converts the time entered onto the timesheet from hours into a daily entity that we can bill to the client. So sorry, back to what I was thinking I was about to show you. So the opportunity and project sort of shape. So key to us when we first identify an opportunity is knowing what individual availability is like, and being able to plan that resource for the project as it goes through the sales process. We're much less concerned at this stage about the financials. So there's a huge amount of variability throughout the sales process in terms of the rate is dependent largely on the individual rather than the project. So there's no great benefit to us trying to forecast out individual financial information at this early stage, but we do need to know who's available and start to plan that out. So the process that we've come up with to do that is very much to create a shell project, which we can use to do the resourcing, but that doesn't really contain much by way of information beyond that. So we set that up at the outset. We work through the process, the sales process, until the point at which the project is won. And at that point is when we start to add the details. So do the financial side of things, get the scheduled hours on and so forth. And that's where things start to get sort of more accurate and detailed.
And I think this is there's different things that you said, and Tim, and I think it's a really great intro in terms of how your business is doing things. It's the fact that you're using a lot of external resources. This is great. You also leverage community, which will not be showing today, but that is a great way as well to get external consultant in. And also the fact that you're using your placeholder project, and then after that you're recreating a project. We can discuss the detail later and why you're doing this, but it's also a different way of looking at it, and I find it quite interesting.
Yeah, and in fact that's very much an experience-led thing. We didn't start off doing it that way, but we soon came to realize that we were just putting lots of data on for no great reason at the outset. So we sort of narrowed it down to focus on the things that were really important. I'll also just quickly touch on our extensions process towards the end if we have time. So once a project's up and running, it's all fairly light touch. We don't have much direct involvement in the project management side of things, but things, as I say, when extensions come on or when the project nears its end, there's some activity there that we'll touch on briefly. So with that, I will turn to the to create cells. So I'm going to stop my share and share again. Okay, so hopefully you can now see an opportunity.
Yes.
Which I suspect looks pretty familiar to most of you. Typical Salesforce opportunity there. So in this case, this is quite common for us. A client's looking for a single individual resource for a project for 6 months or so at outset, starting from the start of February. So we've got that already set up, and pretty much as soon as we've identified that opportunity, we'll then start to look to plan the resource. So we create a project straight away. We call it a placeholder project or a shell project, if you like. We've got a button on the opportunity record, which has a form to fill in the basic information that we need to create that shell, and it pulls through a specific template to allow us to do that.
This is quite simple, a button, but it's not a standard button, right? I think
right.
Drakia implemented you. So Drakia created that button to really specify the different fields, which might be specific for your project in that type of opportunity. So the fact that all our customer can create their own button is something that it's simple, but can do a lot of good and simplify the operation a lot. So I wanted to point out that you can
absolutely that was really important to us, because we were finding that the sort of standard what was requested when you first set up a project wasn't quite what we wanted to record. So it sort of worked very well for us. And I'm not going to run through that now, because I've got, in true Blue Peter fashion, I've got the project already set up. And as I say, we call it a shell placeholder. So as you can see, there's very little information on here. We've got the dates, which are important, a bit about the billing type, so the fact that it's time and expense, but pretty much all our projects are. But as you can see, as I scroll down, there's no hours, there's no financial information on there at all. In terms of the related lists, there's no project assignments, and importantly, there's no task at this stage. There's nothing comes through on the template. So we've got our shell there, and that will now enable us to start to try and plan out the resource. And we do that through the global resource planner. So it can be done obviously at a project level, but we find the ability to look across our whole resource pool from the global view makes life a lot easier for us. So I'm going to start off looking at the scheduled view. You can see that here. I've created a sort of subset of our staff pool just to make it look a bit more manageable. So this scheduled view, and this is something I'll return to a couple of times. So this is based on time that's scheduled against tasks. So as I say, on this particular project, there are no tasks created at this stage, but I'm looking at this scheduled view because it's based on actual tasks, and therefore the actual committed activity that our guys are either in the process of doing or they're definitely going to be doing at some point in the future. So this is really the sort of the baseline accurate picture of what the position is at the moment. And we can see from this that there's a few people coming free at the start of February. This view is color coded as most of them are. So red is showing people over capacity, yellow is showing people that have got pretty much on capacity or a little bit less, and white is where they have available capacity. And you can change the parameters around there. So at the moment I've got it set to anything 2 days a week or over, but here if I can change it, so we're now showing as yellow anyone with 3.5 days or over. Change that back. And that's really useful to give you a sort of basic glance of what's going on. And we can see from this that, for example, Adam here, looks like he's becoming free at the end of January. So he could potentially be somebody that would be available for our project. Somebody like James here in the middle, he's going to be engaged all the way through, in fact, till the end of August. So no real value in looking at him. So that's quite a useful sort of first look, just to get an initial sense of who might be available. But then the richer view is when we actually look at the planned view here. So this contains all of the information that we were just looking at from the scheduled view relating to the tasks, because we sync tasks and projects from a scheduling perspective. But it also shows us what's going on in terms of the pipeline. So Adam here, when we looked at him before, he had 40 hours a week and was then free in February. But now we can see in February, it looks like he's way over capacity. Yeah, indeed. He's a clever guy. He'll be able to manage. But yeah, so the reason for that is that, as I say, these have got his various pipeline projects that he's in contention for, that we've penciled him in for, not that he's actually committed to at this stage. And those are color coded as well. So if we look at the palette here, anything at the sort of green end of the scale means that it's pretty early stage, going up to the orange here, which shows that we call it offer, but basically it means that it's pretty close to completion. So we can see from Adam, he was in contention for a few things, but he's actually got an offer here for this Phoenix project from the start of February. So it's not a given that's going to happen, but it's pretty likely. So the chances are he's not going to be suitable for this project that we're considering now.
And this is key, right? Go ahead, Dominic.
No, I was just going to say that for the other ones, basically what was done in this org is that the naming of softbook and requested and all of those were leveraged and kind of renamed so that it makes sense. So these are the same type of soft booking, hard book, and close, and these are the status of project assignments that were just renamed. So
yeah, absolutely. We just tweak them to sort of fit into the terms that we already use. So that's a useful function, I guess.
And this is key because a lot of people, what they add before having a PSA, or if you're not leveraging that 2 level, is that you do think that Adam is free, but it's a completely different picture when you're thinking about a future project or pipeline project. Then it's no, on the opposite, you probably need to hire more people to fulfill. You don't have as much if you close your deal, but it paints a different picture. So yeah.
Absolutely, and that was the real driver for us. We were of a size where we could manage that because we sort of knew everyone and we knew what everyone was doing, what they were penciled in for. But as soon as we got to that next level up, that was just unrealistic. So we needed something like this. So I'm not going to look down them all individually. But we can look at a couple. So Ben here, for example, he's got an interview lined up and a couple of very early stage things, so he might be an option. Imelda here. So she's not got much going on, but she's got a couple of weeks of annual leave booked at the start of February. And then she's then got a week of study. So she's obviously cramming for some exams. And I think probably the client aren't going to be able to wait until the end of February. So that probably rules her out. So we can look across the piece like that, which is useful. But even with only 15 resources here, even that gets a little bit tricky to sort of see the wood for the trees. So the Chancellor would probably want to filter it down a little bit more. And obviously the client preset filters here are very useful for that. So I'm going to apply a couple of those. First of all, location. So I know it's probably immaterial at the moment because we're all working remotely, but let's bear with me and imagine that this needs to be filled by somebody in our London team. So we can apply that filter and that narrows things down a little bit. But there's various other filters that we can apply. Role might be one. We tend not to use role all that much because the sort of key driver for us is around the specific experience that the individual has rather than the role. But one thing we can often look at is what we call levels. So quite often the client is very specific about whether they want a qualified actuary, a senior student or whatever. So we can set the level there.
Which for you in this case is different than a skill. That level is...
Yes, yeah. So that's crossover, but for skill, we would think of being an actual a piece of experience that they've got, whereas level is around their sort of general how advanced they are through the actuarial process.
Thank you.
We do use the skills a little bit though. So in this case, we know that the client needs somebody who's got some financial reporting experience, and there is slightly richer skills functionality within client, which we probably don't use to its capacity. So there's a compare resource function if you look through the project level planner that allows you to see not just whether people have got these skills, but what the skill level is next to each other. But we tend not to do that because, as I said at the start, we like to be able to see across the board at all the projects people are in contention for. So we just use this as a binary: do they have it or not? Do they not have it? So I applied that then narrows things down quite considerably. So I'm left with 6 possibles here, one of which is Adam that we looked at, and he's probably not going to be any good because he's already pretty much secure on another project. James, as we saw earlier, is going right through till the end of August. So if I quickly look down the others, Jack here, that's okay. He's finishing his current project at the end of January. A few things on, but probably be okay. Kate's also not got anything absolutely certain, but she's got a project that she's at a pretty late stage at as well. So in the orange here, so we'd probably not be looking to put her forward. Richard, similar to Jack, has a project finishing at the end of January. So he'd probably be okay, nothing confirmed or late stage there. And finally, Rob, whose current project doesn't finish till a couple of weeks into February, but we think probably the client could have a bit of flexibility there. So he might be an option. So I think probably what we'll do is we'll put Rob and Richard forward, and we do that through the project level planner itself. You could do it through the global planner, but we tend to find it's easier to do this at the project level. So I quickly go into the viewing client interface and select the client level planner, project level planner rather, and we can add the resource straightforwardly here. So I select Richard. So the role's not that important. I'll put them at considering level because it's very early stages yet. And in terms of the hours and the level of effort, we don't tend to worry too much about that because most of our projects are either full-time or say 4 days a week. So we might zero out one of these daily hours here. But essentially what we're planning against is the full working schedule of the individual. So we just distribute that evenly over the course of the period.
Because this is more kind of the resource planning, right? So you're putting a resource at a client for a full-time job for a long, like short to long term.
Indeed. And once they're there may be things that they do. They'll come back and do stuff for us in-house, but essentially they're fully out there, so they're not available for other projects. Is the key. Yep. And bear with me. I'll just enter Rob as well. And schedule him. So they're now both saved at the project level, and if we go back, wait till that goes in. If we go back then to the global planner, we can see that those projects have now appeared within the planner there, showing at the first level dark green stage. So that's essentially how we look to sort of plan people's time out, and then over the course of the project, or the course of the opportunity rather, people will move on and off that list. We'll refine things like pricing up until the point that we either win or lose that opportunity. And at that stage, we will delete the placeholder project and create a new ongoing project that then conforms to the more detailed information that we need to retain.
We did a dry run yesterday, and my question was, why do you delete those projects? And I think it's just it's mainly a question. It's easier and it's faster, and you want to more reliable, right? And you start from scratch.
Well, that's right. So it means that we don't then have to go through removing all of these assignments from people that aren't going to be on the project. But also because obviously things get changed as you move through it, we just found it's neater just to get rid of the whole lot and start again. And we actually, because we'll then go back to the opportunity and use that button, we can draw through a different template that's then got things like the tasks set up and what have you. So we just find it's more efficient to do it that way, although perhaps it sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Eventually something that, like what we talked last week of synchronizing, importing with a template, there would be several ways of doing it where we can also synchronize from the scheduled over and then kind of override whatever was there. But it still, as you said, would require that you remove any extra project assignments and maybe other things. But
but you're right. There's definitely scope for that sort of thing. It was something I picked up when you mentioned that last week. So that's
but when you count the number of click, this is pretty easy, right? One delete and then a recreation, and your project are not complex. That's, I think, it's the key here. Like if you would have a lot of tasks and during the proposal stage you would add tasks and hours and schedule hours, it wouldn't work as good. But because of that specific model we're looking at, the resourcing, I think this is perfect and just clever to use it this way.
Absolutely.
And as you find when we're working and you keep using it anyway, it's, if it's a standard process, you keep doing it the same way, then, that's the key, basically, to standardize that process. Perfect.
But you're right, Yannick, for more complex consulting projects, we tend not to do this. We will build up the project and keep it. So sort of horses for courses a little bit. So then just in terms, this is a one that I'd set up previously, so one that's now being resourced. You can see that there's more information on here. We've put in some estimated hours and revenue and costs. We've scheduled the time against it, so we've got the estimated revenue at completion in there. And so once that's set up, actually thereafter, for the course of the project, there's not that much interaction. So we don't use project management functionality because, as Yannick says, our projects are pretty straightforward. Not in terms of the work we do, but in terms of from a client perspective. So our people will enter their time. They'll put in any expense claims, time off requests or whatever, and we'll do the invoicing. But it's all fairly light touch until such time as we get towards the end of the project, as I say. So I'm not going to show you now because I'm in a
sandbox. Can you just maybe the difference before your how do you call it, your placeholder project and this real execution project is the CRO task, right? So in here we have one task, and because you want to use the schedule and you're using schedule on task, so you just create one for the entire duration of that assignment to that customer, and then your guys are logging time under that task. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's all then straightforward from their perspective. They don't have to worry about breaking things down or whatever. It's just that's what appears in their timesheet, so it's nice and easy for them, which our actuaries like.
They all like that. Not just actuary.
So we've got a dashboard that shows tasks that are coming towards the end of their duration, and we use that then to preempt conversation with the client as to whether or not they're likely to want to extend that individual beyond the end of the contract. And frequently that's what happens. The clients will, either the project scope will be extended or they'll still have the capacity need. So in this case, I'm going to look at James very quickly, who we saw was going through till the end of August. His project started in the middle of 2019. And as Yannick says, we have a single set of tasks or a single task for each of those engagements. So he's extended twice. He had the initial task here up until February last year, then an extension till August, and now his third extension, which has gone right the way through to the end of August this year. And in fact, in James's case, so we've got a task assignment for each of them. And in James's case, he actually had a rate change after the end of the first period. So that gets reflected. And this drives all of our daily rate billing through the task assignment rate there.
But again, it's a clever way of using the platform to have it simple and to have reporting. So one task per assignment. When there's an extension, you create another one. So that's great. We know that we're lacking some of the feature in terms of change requests or change management or extension like you're doing. So that's one easy way and clever way of handling this. And you can report on it. You can even change rate, like you said. So you could even change a resource for an extension. So that's great.
Yeah, we can do that. We tend not to do that. We tend to treat that as a new project, but absolutely, it's nice and neat this way. So it's got that flexibility. And really, it's then just a question of creating a new task. We would tend probably to have a quick look at the planner just to make sure the individual isn't scheduled for something else. But generally, for us, it tends to work the other way around. That if a project came up that they might be suitable for, we'd talk to his current client and say, well, look, are you likely to want to extend him? And if so, then it's probably would get taken off the table. So it's nice and straightforward for extensions.
We have a question, Tim, from the audience. Is there a scenario where resource wouldn't have 37.5 hours per week, or is it always split evenly?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, if I go back to the planner here and look at Adam, for example. So this is his current project. If I open it out, so he's scheduled 40 hours for the week there because our client has slightly different working hours from our own standard. But quite often what we find is that we'll place somebody on a full-time basis, but it will be, say, 4 days a week, and the other day they will spend back doing work centrally for APR. And so we might look to do that at the planning stage, but actually, for most of our projects, if they only have a day a week of capacity, then they're not something that we could place anyway with another client. So generally speaking, we'd only go into that level of detail when they've actually won the project, and we're scheduling at the task level. And then we do try and do it as accurate as we can, so we know what capacity we've got to use internally and potentially for other projects as well.
Dominic, you have something you want to say?
Yeah, and maybe to add on that, obviously, yes, you could circle back for cases where a customer would have varying, planned hours per week. You could go back and, modify each of those sections that we see there, like the 37.5. Customer could go back and dig into those weeks that are shorter and modify those to affect the planning. So obviously, if it's not always constant, then you need to go and change those somewhat individually, either by week, by month.
So the easiest way would be kind of distribute evenly, maybe remove some of the hours per day. So we saw when you created yours, Tim, it was 7.5 every day, but maybe Wednesday you could put 0 or 2, so you get a slightly different one. And then if you want to edit individually each week, then as you said, you would need to come here and change the big block and remove or add hours to it. Correct? That would be the easiest way to do it.
Yeah,
that's right. And I suppose it's a balance between the effort in going down to that level of detail and what you get out of it. But generally speaking, that's how we would do it. That normally when people have a day off a week, it'll be the same day. So as you say, you can do that from outset. Sometimes we have people where they'll have a week, sort of 5 days, and another week 4 days, and another one 5 days. And obviously then you have to go in and do it at the week level. But yeah, it's all just a question of how much effort you need to spend, I suppose.
Perfect. So maybe this is a note I don't think everybody has noticed, but at the bottom of your control in Zoom, you have a Q&A section. So anybody that want to ask a question, feel free to do it. A question for Tim or for the product itself. So don't hesitate to ask question in the QA section at the bottom of the Zoom controls.
I think, awesome. Yeah, that's probably everything I was going to show you. I did just have that last slide, if it's worth just going through to reiterate again this difference between the planning and the scheduling. So if I try and share that briefly, where's it gone? I've lost my, there we go, screen 2. So hopefully that's now my slides.
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah, so just to finish on this, so again, talking about the distinction between doing things at a project level and a task level, and this is, yeah, having that distinction really makes it a lot easier to understand what's going on here. So yeah, when we're looking at opportunity, it's all at the project level. We're only interested in very limited detail. It's all about availability and resourcing. So everything's done at the project assignment level, and it's visible in the planning view under the schedule, under the global planner. And then once we win a project, that's when the task level detail comes in. Yeah, we put full details in, including the financials, add the task assignment, and that's when we schedule time against that task, and that shows in the scheduled view on the planner. So that distinction for us is yeah, a really critical part of how we operate this.
Yep, and it gives you the flexibility you want, and it's I think what you've shown us, it's the perfect way to use the platform. This is great. Thanks, Tim. Don't hesitate if you have questions. Tim is also active on our community and client community, so you can write him at Tim Nash on our community. And is there anything else you want to talk about, Tim?
No, that's me done. I'll stop sharing in that case.
Thanks a lot for your time. As I said, like building all this, it's a great exercise. I'm sure it can be stressful. So thank you very much. And I know you've put a lot of time, so it's really appreciated.
You're very welcome.
Dominic, you want to go next to show us just a quick way also to handle planning?
My intervention is going to be kind of the quick tip of the week. It's not anything extensive, but really something that you can, just following in that same track of plan versus scheduled. There's a way on the timesheet, if you need to have an interaction with your end users, the one that will just log time on. There's as you see here at the bottom, I have a new section that is showing, which is my projects. So any projects when I'm logged in that I have an assignment that is still opened on the different projects would be listed at the bottom. And here what it's showing the a project assignment schedule. So the same as what Tim was just showing, when we're in the plan view, you have those small squares that show either per week, per day. These are actually the values per day that we see on that timesheet here. So that could serve as, we could leverage it for different things. We know that at Drakia, when we started a few years ago, when we were a smaller team, what we decided we were doing is that every week we would make sure that we were advising or, putting up for the next few weeks the number of hours we were expecting to work on a few projects. So there's a difference sometimes also in between what is scheduled to be done, maybe tasks that are as spread across several weeks, but you're concentrating the effort, maybe in one or another week. So maybe you want to change the number of hours or advise the number of hours you're going to put on the week. But basically, this is going to show you the hours that you're already planned on project. And you could also input, let's say I'm going to work on this project or I'm expecting to work, you can directly input, and this is going to affect the project assignment schedule directly. So that could serve as just a read only. If you want to show on the timesheet what project you're scheduled to work on, that could be a way of showing it to your users, or you could have it so that they can input that and affect the project assignment schedules there. So.
And we can see, you need to still need to be careful with this UI. If you're still using the, for example, the Gantt to do your planning, and you have that checkbox we've talked several times to sync the schedules up, because, for example, the Acme project, your first one, by the number of hours, I understand that it's been planned through most probably the Gantt or some kind of a due date, start date. So that's why we have that kind of schedule every day. So this one, if you play with the Gantt, it's gonna change the hours here for the assignment if you have that checkbox. While other project might be a different mode for each project, the way you do it. So you would and then for deep dive tech, you would really punch in, okay, I'm gonna focus on 8 hours this week. And the cool thing, and the thing that we are focusing at Drakia as well, it's really to have our team plan either way, but for the next 4 weeks. So when you go up on the timesheet, you can always navigate to the next week. So it's the same thing. So the rule of thumb at Drakia is that for the next 4 weeks, each week you should have your plan, and so this way we can forecast a bit better. So either by entering it directly like this manually, or by playing with the project again. So again, it's a selection, and you need to be careful, but and understand what's happening. But it's two different ways that can help out.
And for us, it's pretty clear that difference. We have some engagement that are more considered as project, where we have that waterfall type of structure, or forward plan and schedule projects. And we have some engagement which we call growth engagement, where we'd have a number of fixed hours we're selling to a customer. Say, okay, every week I'm going to work 8 hours for you. So, and maybe we have some slower period, or higher occupancy period. So then we can adjust that directly here. So the users don't necessarily need to go to a resource planner or to have that adjusted. It could be an easy way in some cases, if it's clear, that can be leveraged to kind of affect through your timesheet the planned hours. So just a kind of a something that could be used in different use cases. And just to close on that, the way to get this is for an admin to go in the setup. That is controlled through the custom settings, and there's a custom setting that is a client timesheet configuration, and that the one we're looking for is enable here, the enable schedule, project schedule on timesheet. So once this is checked on your custom setting, that's going to show for whatever profile we have that custom setting set for. So that's that section we have here. And at the end, we need to save schedule, obviously, so that we know if we do any changes, we save it, it's going to be committed and affect the project assignment schedules on the projects. That's it.
Great, thank you. So let me take back the control. You should see my screen. So the next step, I want to show you again a different way of you doing project schedule. And I want to show you by at the same time our new project board component that we're releasing, that we've released in the latest one, 39.2, but also in 39.3. We've made some enhancements. So our release 39.3, Ilan will send us all of you guys is going to send us the release note as a follow-up to this webinar. The release note is ready today, and the final documentation will be released tomorrow. So this being said, as of today, you could go ahead and install the 39.3. I would suggest again that you do a proper testing and validation in Sandbox. This being said, those are pretty separate, the change we made besides the rebranding to client. Next week, since we're talking about execution, we're going to demo the mobile timesheet. But today I'm going to talk about the project board. So the project board, it's the new way of developing components in Salesforce. They're called LWC, or Lightning Web Components. This is the kind of replacing a little bit what Visual Force Page was doing with HTML, and it was a bit difficult and not as flexible to use. Now with those LWC, we can using JavaScript and different things in terms of getting us a better UI and experience, but also better performance when we're dealing with more records. So this is the new way to go for each of our component. Our project board is one of the first. So we did a couple of more LWC already, but this is our biggest one so far. The idea of that project board, the idea behind it, why we've developed it, it's really to get to more to kind of an agile style of doing project management. It's based on Kanban board, and what I want to show you, it's the difference in terms of how you can manage projects. So Dominic mentioned something about the implementation, more kind of a waterfall. So this is an implementation project, and everything's followed through. But sometimes you have something else, like Drakia, they have their growth engagement, where it's more kind of a list of tasks that you would build with your customer, and you want to execute and you want to prioritize in a different way. So I know we have already several board. This one is a bit different. Like I said, it's a LWC board as well. So it's an experiment as well for us, but the way we build it, we do believe it's going to prove a lot of value to you guys moving forward. It's still in version 1. It is usable. It's going to be better in the next version. We're going to keep improving it. We're also looking for your comments on how to improve it. The concept here, it's like I said, it's a board. As you can see here, it's grouped by status, meaning that the categories I see on top is the value of that pick list status, which exists on a task. Those are tasks that we're seeing here. And then I can change, for example, I have here the my different tasks, or each one has cards, and I can I can filter them or sort them depending on the way I want to see it. So let's say I want to see the most pressing task that we need to execute. So we have this one here. I know that this one is completed, so I can just go ahead and drag and drop it to my different section. And let's say I want to start working on the customer community architecture. So I'm going to just drop it here. Since it's a component, it's linked to our task. You have a couple of icons here. If I'm clicking on the I one, it's going to bring that side panel. Again, this side panel, it's a new LWC. You've seen that panel in the past, but this has been redone in the LWC. So moving forward, this is what we're going with. We're still adding and coming up to par with the functionality of our side panel and the boards, our previous board. So we still might be missing a couple of things here, but for the most important stuff like the schedules, the detail page is the full page layout that we see. Maybe at some point we should bring back the field set control. So this is something we're talking about. You can come in, if you're assigned, you can log your time. So the concept of that board is that it's not the my work when you see only what has been assigned to you. It's really, you can see the entire project on the board, and then you can decide in terms of with your customer, okay, what we should focus on. One of the specific about this board that is different from the standard Kanban board of client or of Salesforce is that you can change the group by. So we were looking at status, but I could switch it and look at as priority. So it's giving me a second level, or depending on how you want to look at it, but it's giving you an easy way to manage it in different dimensions. So the same task that I had before about the architecture, I can now move it as well as a high priority. So I could have changed it in the project detail page, but this is one way that you can easily play around with different dimensions for your task. And when you want to do sprints, for example, our development team, this is one of the way that at client we're using sprints, and we're using those tasks, so you can plan those tasks per sprint as well. So you could still have the stage, you can still look at different views. So that's a new approach. We're experimenting with it as well on our side. I do believe there's a lot of potential. I do see a lot of improvement we can do on it, but it's also a different way that I wanted to show you guys on how you can manage project, not in maybe more as an agile or more kind of in a to-do list, but with that new component.
Backlog / sprint approach.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not full agile, it's not full scrum, it's we're not calculating backlog, so we're not replacing those agile tool, but the idea is to give more flexibility in terms of how you might want to manage different type of project. The idea of that board as well is it can be exposed on the community, meaning that as a read-only board you can have it, and you can expose the board with the different statuses. Again, I think we're missing filters, the look and feel, and the visibility of the task. We're gonna change a little bit, so it's gonna be easier to read the name of the task. So we're gonna improve it. The concept is that it's a board that's gonna allow us to do a different way of managing project, like I said several times already. To be able to configure this, you will be able, again, with the email that Ilan will send us, you're gonna be able to access the release note for 39.3.
I didn't share anymore, Yannick, if you are showing something.
Sorry. So can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so the release note, so 39.3, you'll receive the email soon. Again, you have the installation URL here. Like I was talking the other day, this is the release note linking to help article, and we have one here for the project board. And that, again, let me, I don't know, I've tested my link prior this time, but still, give me a sec. So that project board, maybe I don't need to get into the details, but you're gonna have all the details on how you can drop the component in the page, how you can there's 3 sections right on our project boards: how to configure and how to use, and the prerequisite. So if looking at the help text or the help article, you're going to be able to add those and test it in your org as soon as tomorrow.
It comes with field sets, so that's also something that will come with that, so that you can configure those cards, what's showing, what's not. So it's dropping it on your page layout, but also looking at those field set and making them your own, with what makes sense for you. So.
Exactly. So and then like I said, every release note now from now on is going to be served on on our community. So I'm looking back in. So the link is going to also be changed on the home page. Let me share again. So here we're still pointing to 39.2, but later on today we're going to switch to 39.3. And within this, I can go to, for example, I've opened 39.2, but it's the same document. It's going to show that project board documentation, like I said, with prerequisite, how to configure and how to use. We did put a lot of screenshot and a lot of details on how to configure it and use it. So let us know as well if you like the format of the new release note, but also the new help article. This is what we're building moving forward. So again, we're always looking for your feedback and comments, so don't hesitate.
And each of those articles, you can comment directly in the articles also. So it's
on top of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's in context.
Great. So if there's no additional question, this will be it for today. Looking forward for next week. Again, Tim, your presence and your demo is really appreciated. I love seeing a real life example. You're muted, but no, your demo was great.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Yannick.
We have 2 questions, Yannick.
Yeah. Can I install 39.3 without 39.2? The answer is yes. You can always install unless proven otherwise, but you can always install the latest release. If you're starting from something below 37 or 36, maybe we can double check with you. But for the latest release, yes, you can always install the newest one.
There's another question regarding a recession we would have on reporting, as
yes.
Al is keen to understand the power of client and how it can help them set up project reports and dashboards.
Yes, but it's far. So we're doing once a week, and we have 2 topics. So we have the client keynote and customer showcase. So the analytics and reporting is due for April 21 and 28. So most probably, if you have question or request, you can reach out to either Dominic and I, and we're gonna help you out in terms of reporting. But yeah, everything we do and everything that is in Salesforce and client can be reported on, but the showcase and client keynote will be in April. Excellent. So thank you very much again for being here. We appreciate delivering those. I hope it's you find it useful as well, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks. Bye, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.